Welcome back. We're at episode 8 here. This is actually part 2 of a 2-part interview with Cat Dizon from Active Capital. In our first part, we talked a lot about your history, which was a phenomenal history as an entrepreneur and to now a VC here in our community. Talked a lot about VC. For this one, and this is a critical conversation for our community to have, I really wanted to focus and talk about women founders, what we're doing to support youth, specifically female. I've got 2 daughters. I know you have a daughter as well. This is a passion of mine to make sure that we're giving them the skills they need and the opportunities. And then also with Latinas, we've had others on our show here that are involved and actively of Latina founders and making sure that they have the resources and the opportunities that are out there. So we're excited to have this as a shorter part 2. Thank you so much for sticking around. I know you have a busy day. Yeah. Talk to us about your personal mission around women founders, Latina founders in our community. Let's start with that.
Sure. So stepping into venture, I realized there aren't too many women in venture. Very, very few. And as I am now in my 4th year doing what I do, I'm still not seeing an uptick in numbers. So very aware of it. I also, working with founders, I don't see enough women entrepreneurs approaching VC. And in 2020, only 2.3% of VC dollars went to female-led startups.
Wow.
So there is still so much work that needs to go in. And a lot of it could be not enough female investors, not enough time is being spent on vetting out women-led startups. And there are opportunities and initiatives that have really taken hold these last 2 years to improve those numbers. And one of them being the Beam Angel Network, which was started last year during the pandemic out of Austin. And it is a chapter that is fully focused on funding women-led startups. And I'm proud to say as of August of this year, we now have a San Antonio chapter. And what's been most heartwarming for me is we had our first chapter get together and I met some fantastic female entrepreneurs locally that I don't think I would have ever met any other way. So they're coming out in numbers. I'm very excited for 2022 to see more female entrepreneurs really try to take hold of capital and continue to build out their dreams. And there are others that are now coming into the scene that are getting more active into the space as well.
2.3% are getting VC dollars. So if we look and extrapolate that out on the life cycle of entrepreneurs, we've got 2.3% are women founders, which means for the next 7 years on those higher levels, it's just 2.3%. I mean, where's our gap? Where are we missing as a community, as a country? Where are we missing to not make that number bigger? Is it the better support for the early stage companies? Is it better support for the funding and later stage companies? Where's our critical gap right now?
What I'm finding is a lot of our female entrepreneurs just don't have the right network.
Okay.
They're needing to really put in an incredible amount of effort to get into areas where they're starting to have those right conversations. And the challenge is a lot of institutes still require like a warm intro or some sort of known quantity to get in. Whereas at least more locally, I just want to meet you. I'll take a cold email any day because that's just the way I am. But again, not everybody operates this way. So what I'm finding is, you're going to have to put in a lot more effort as a female entrepreneur to get into those circles. But the good news is I'm starting to see a lot more activity. I think that is starting to be figured out of I've just got to be really active. On the other side, our female entrepreneurs are unsure if they're ready and prepared to take on capital. And those are the types of conversations I'm now having locally is, you're never going to be perfectly ready. What do you have? Are you confident in what you do? Let's start the conversation. So it's a lot of coaching and mentoring to shore up. But that's the thing is I don't think entrepreneurs, female entrepreneurs are asking enough. And I don't think investors are for those that are giving enough consideration right now.
That's interesting because we've just gone through the cycle of a lot of the major pitch competitions. Tech Fuel, Velocity did their demo day, and you see a good, it's pretty evenly distributed. It just appears on the outside, male to female led. So you can see them early stage, but it's that I guess
it's the VC, it's the VC wall
and the angel,
that's right.
funding that gets them out of, well, actually in drive or out of a valley where they could potentially run out of cash. Are we doing things enough locally to foster that? Do you think we're taking the right approach? I mean, of course, bringing more capital or access to capital is step one, but what are the opportunities? What are the structures out there for somebody, maybe an entrepreneur that's listening, to get that skill? Are we educating them in this? I mean, what are we doing to solve that problem?
I would love to see more female entrepreneurs in accelerators going for additional education, because when we look at a portfolio company or a potential for a portfolio company, that basis, that foundation is very important because they've gotten that training, they've done that education. We also need to start getting more mentors available to all entrepreneurs, and maybe specifically to our female entrepreneurs, because again, that goes back to the network. Is, do you know the right people? Are you getting mentored by the right people? And, I think locally, individual groups are starting to set up more of a mentoring circle and more of an office hours. But again, there's still a lot to be developed. These entrepreneurs have to hunt. Like, they have to go and figure out what they want to, who they want to work with, and what they want to know and what they want to learn. But locally, I think, to your point, I think there's a lot of interest. I think there's a lot more capital coming to the city. Now we have to get really organized on how we support and translate that to how the founders can really utilize it.
So people may not be aware, but we talked about accelerators. Sometimes you hear about incubators. What's the ideal path? If maybe I've just got an idea. I'm a female entrepreneur. I've got an idea. What path should I get myself on to set myself up for best success with VC? Walk down that journey of what it looks like, because people may not understand those languages of incubator, accelerator, those sort of things. What does that look like here?
So incubator is more the idea stage, trying to get it a little bit more packaged and put together. Incubation is less important for me. However, depending on how much information you want and how much support you want early on, it could be ideal for the right entrepreneur. For us, those that are coming and working through out of an accelerator means they've received just enough seed capital to put themselves in that educational space, and then resource development. And typically accelerators open up their network to you with regard to mentors and regard to investors. So you've already got that behind you as far as almost like a support group to kind of get you ready for the conversation with the VC. Do they have to go through an accelerator? No. Sometimes we find really established entrepreneurs that maybe they've just been in business for so long, they know how to do these things, but there's still key pieces that are missing. Meeting an entrepreneur that can really talk through their financials and really their numbers and their metrics and their goals, that's what we're looking for. And sometimes it takes an accelerator to really prepare an entrepreneur to do that. Female entrepreneurs need to jump on that and insert themselves in those types of settings. The good news is, again, there are a lot of accelerators that are very much customized for women entrepreneurs, such as Beam and HerSlab. And these are going to be the groups that our local female entrepreneurs are going to get the best benefit, because it is specifically tailored for what they're doing and who they are and what they're building.
So you don't have to do this from scratch, right? You don't have to figure it out on the fly. No. The resources are out there to make sure. Do you think we do enough to promote those resources? Do we have enough resources for those that are looking? Why do we not see, are we seeing more women get into those accelerators and have those opportunities, or do we have a gap there?
I think we do have a gap there, because any group that I speak to, I promote as much as I can, but I think part of it is just knowing that they're there. And Beam, while still very early and new to the San Antonio, they're making great strides. There are some additional accelerators in the new year that I'm proud to say will be launching. And again, additional resources. But I think, to your point, yes, I think there is a gap in how we're getting into the founder community to let them know of all the resources that are available.
And I mean, I've had this conversation with some other people here on podcasts. Those that are resourceful can find. I mean, these opportunities exist, but you have to be resourceful. You've got to do the research, as we talked about in the last one. Research, prepare.
Absolutely.
And you'd like to think that all founders have that, but so much of them are stuck in their passion project. What they're working on, that they don't want to spend the time to go find that. So that's why we need to have just better waving the flag, saying, come here, we're here to help you, that are out there.
Well, and also some entrepreneurs haven't figured out yet that their network is going to be so critical for them with regard to finding other founders, regard to finding new investors. And the best thing about what I can say from Active Capital's standpoint is we get refers from our founders to new founders. So the founders find us, and it's like-minded. And that's what the founders need to think about. And these female entrepreneurs need to start really building up their entrepreneurial base and who they know and who they work with and who's good to work with from another founder's perspective. And I think that's the conversation that really needs to be nurtured, and the network needs to be built out for every female entrepreneur.
Let's talk a little bit about Latinas here in our community, because it's such a unique part of our culture, which is why I love being here, the heritage that everybody brings together, that lives together here. Where do you see this for Latinas specifically? Because I don't have the statistics memorized. I should. We had some folks on, we were talking about, so if it's 2.3% women VC, look at the subsegment of Latinas, I'm going to say that it's, into the decimals. There's probably not a whole number there at all.
Yeah.
What are we doing to promote Latina founders here in our community? Where are our gaps? What should we be doing on that part?
I would love to see more of a formal organization for that, or a formal initiative. Right now, I'm part of an Austin initiative, and it's Latin Founders with Latin Funders. And we get together, just newly started as of this summer, but we're starting to really try to figure out who in the community is Latino or Latina, and start building up, again, our network and who we all are, and how, and not only just us, but those that support us and that want to invest in the fastest growing entrepreneurship group, which happens to be Latinas since as of last year. And we are 19% of the US population. So the fact that the numbers in VC and in funding do not reflect that nearly enough, we do realize there's a lot of work to be done in that respect, but nothing initially formal right now, but would love to have that change in the new year.
We'll keep that going, because this is a conversation we continue to have, again, for our community, to make sure there's resources, accessibility, opportunities for every part of our community to keep it. What San Antonio is so unique. I mean, you're from here. San Antonio, South Texas, same thing. Corpus, we're all together here.
That's right.
And Austin is fantastic, but it's a very unique culture that it continues. But San Antonio's culture is just so unique. And if we don't support it and grow all aspects of our culture, we're going to find ourselves in 20 years looking very different as a metroplex versus the community we all love. Let's talk a little bit about youth. You have a passion. We've talked about, you've got your daughter, 8 years. I've got a 9-year-old and a soon-to-be 4-year-old. What are things that you're involved in our community to support just the youth of our community? What are some of the things you're involved in?
So I talked about it in the first segment, but confidence is really important in business. It's important in life. It really sets you up and really gives more strength to your presence in all you do. And with my daughter being 8 and just kind of watching her grow up, I realize how much it takes to keep her confidence level high and trying new things. And so building up girls' confidence is very important to me. And I'm very fortunate to be part of Girls Inc. of San Antonio, that we serve underrepresented parts of the group of the city and help these girls build up their confidence, get into STEM programs, get into leadership programs, and really try to figure out what they want to do with their life and how to become the best version of themselves as an adult. And through these last 2 years and being part of these camps and programs, I've seen these girls grow up and be more confident and take on new risks and be just betting on themselves every day. And that's what I want for my daughter, and having her kind of grow up with that kind of fearless running into any type of situation is as I think what's going to change this trajectory of women in business and women in leadership positions. They're going to be set and primed for confidence. And I love the fact that this organization exists, that we're serving so many girls, and we're starting to really see these girls go into college and be lawyers and be scientists, and they have these aspirations where a few years ago they probably might not have even thought about their future. And now they're thinking about it at a lot earlier of an age.
You mentioned sports, so we have that common, of growing up. And I think, my sister played sports, and I think that as we were growing up, that's where a lot of females got their confidence, was because of athletics or being engaged in some sort of leadership role that was more school-based. I think that'll help a lot, because access to sports, thank goodness, has continued to grow. And, female sports, rightfully so, is getting more and more prominence, specifically at the college. Are we relying too much on that to be what creates that future women leader? I mean, do we need to be focusing more on Girls Inc. and these type of programs, or do we have the right balance?
From what I understand, I think the numbers of girls in sports start to drop off after middle school. So you start losing that team orientation. Hopefully our girls are still staying competitive, but without that sports piece, what is filling their days up and keeping them sharp and keeping them confident? I think there is a gap. And I think groups like Girls Inc. fill that void of, what's next for me? What should I be thinking about? We start kind of having those conversations of what you could be and how to get really interested in science, and are you good at math, and what more do you want, and who do you want to be? Really just asking those questions. We set up a speed date for some of our freshman high school girls earlier this year, and they got to virtually meet executives, leaders, lawyers, city councilwomen, and they had to tell us who they are and who they want to be. And these girls were just petrified, oh my gosh, I have to talk about myself. But by the end of the speed, it's kind of like speed dating, but it's speed mentoring.
Right.
And by the end, the girls at the very last of the hour were so confident. They got a fluid way of speaking about themselves. They were really starting to figure out what they wanted to tell us and who they were and what they wanted to share. And the conversation got easier for them. And that's what these programs are meant to do, is help get our girls into these kinds of circles and into these situations where they're confident about who they are and what they want to do and what they want to share. And it's that build up to where they can walk into the next room and share and lead at some point. So again, most valuable, but there needs to be more servicing specifically to girls and to get them ready for life.
So if you want to, let's not say if, we won't be hypothetical. Let's talk about me.
Okay.
Got a daughter, 9 years old, strong leader. Given your history, your path, where you are today, how you're actively engaged, give me some advice on how to deal, to get a strong-willed leader female. What's the right path for her as she's going into middle school, high school? Give me some advice on it.
Sure. Find out what she's interested in.
Got it.
Okay. Get her to master it and get her to instruct you on it. Get her to be the leader and the teacher of it. Because as she gets really good, if she's able to coach others, it puts her in a leadership position and it makes her want to be better at what she does so that she could be a better leader for others. And once you apply that new responsibility of training others, you start to see things in their personality of how they cope with that and how they're going to deliver on it. And I've done this with my daughter. She's a martial arts. She loves to be martial arts. And her chief instructor noticed that she was kind of almost plateauing in what she did. So he moved her into an instructor forum where she gets to instruct younger kids on what she's doing because of her black belt or her belt rating. And it's like something else turned on. And now how do I be better? So what is she interested in? Make her a master of that, and then get her to teach the younger daughter and figure out how do you lift her up,
right?
Celebrate her, and then challenge her and say, look, how do you make your little sister as good as you? What if you had to do something together? Could she be as strong as you one day? And really just see what starts to come out. And you will start to figure out what that personality type. I think you already know what the personality type is.
You can see in my face,
but you can almost sense of, wow. And then these girls thrive on additional responsibility and how to get better. So you're going to start sharpening that competitiveness, or you may get more of a well, maybe that's not for her, Dad. Maybe she starts seeing more individualistic components in her sister and wants to do something else. So it gets her figuring out how to do it. And that leads into my next nonprofit that I work with, which is Venture Lab. Venture Lab is meant to help youth develop an entrepreneurial mindset, not so much be a business owner, but think differently in this situation is, am I going to be the leader? Am I more of a supporter or influencer of her?
Right.
Does she look up to me, or do I need to work on that and be somebody that she just needs to come to trust, for trust and for advice? So you start figuring out what you do well and how your ideas and the way you look at things add value. Some may be in the form of a business, and you could be the next billionaire, out of San Antonio in 20 years, or you could do other things that just have incredible influence and impact in others. So with Venture Lab, which focuses on developing youth at a very different educational level, it's almost fun. These kids think they're having fun and playing a game, but you're working parts of their mind on how to rethink how they look at life, how they look at objects, and get really creative and inspire that confidence. And that's for both boys and girls. But I love that there's a section for Venture Girls, which is just specific to girls and really encouraging them to want more for themselves.
And we'll make sure we put some links in our descriptions here with both Girls Inc. and Venture Labs, Venture Girls, to make sure, because again, resourcefulness, making it easy so that way people know about these programs is what we want to do. I've got one more question for you here. And it's something, again, as a passion for me, having 2 younger daughters and being a male. Mm-hmm. What are things that men can do as business leaders within our community to better support women entrepreneurs in our own communities? There's something that maybe we're missing, that maybe a thought that we don't realize is ingrained in our minds for those that are trying to help out, or there's an action that we need to take that maybe we don't know. What's something that we're missing as as men here in our community?
I would love to encourage men to be very direct and honest with women. In conversation, in feedback. I am where I am today because I had extraordinary leaders who could care less what I am and who I am. They gave me such brutal, honest feedback that I think people are very worried about giving, because I'm a woman and maybe I can't take the forceful energy, and I get it in all its color, in its energy, and that left an impression on me. But it also let me know I was trusted, and I was respected enough to show me how you really feel and what you really think. Don't censor yourself so much. Be very, very honest. And I think while some people feel like, well, I don't want to use bad language, and don't always use bad language, but really show me the true self, because if not, I'm always questioning, did I really get the real feedback?
Right.
And most times I feel like maybe that's not always the case, is we don't get the true hard feedback. And that is what I tell my female entrepreneurs that I coach is, hey, you take it, you figure out how to use what's been given to you, and you get that no, okay, figure out and perfect your pitch and move on. Like, if they're going to be respectful enough to give you some really great, strong feedback, you take that, you process it, you take what you need to, and you develop. And that is the part, is just make sure we don't sugarcoat, we don't make it easy, we don't let them win easily, right? We encourage them to do better. And I think with my upbringing and with my mentors and just excellent leaders that I've been around and had the privilege of having my back, is I will say they never held back with feedback with me, because I can usually sense sugarcoating. I'll be like, no, really, tell me how you really feel. But it makes me better. Sure. It makes me stronger. And once that woman realizes, okay, you're giving it to me hard, I'm going to turn that in, and I'm going to make you proud, and you're going to see the benefit of being real with me. So I think it's just never sugarcoat, just be truly honest. And I think
it sells. That's great. So in my first life, I was a coach and a teacher, and I coached men's and women's high school soccer. And I always said, y'all are all athletes. Yeah. So I don't differentiate male, female. I am who I am. You get what it is because you're an athlete, and the expectation is there. And I think from a sports context, that mindset we see more predominantly with, great coaches that have coached athletes as athletes, regardless of their sex. I think we miss that in the business community a lot. Yeah. But we could learn a lot from those. Last thing here, in the last segment, we talked about just for founders, what they needed to look into for 2022. Let me ask you a final question here, which is, as a female founder, any last words of advice that you would give them going into 2022 as they move forward? Anything to look for or some advice for them?
I would say if you're a female founder that is looking to raise capital, reach out to local female investors. Whether you know them, whether you've read about them, whether someone can do an introduction for you, because I have yet to see a female investor not take an email from a female founder. I clear my calendar and I make sure I make the time, because I realize what it took for you to send me that email and to chase me down. And I want to make that a little bit better of an experience for you to realize that there are investors that are looking for entrepreneurs like you to invest in. And I will have that discussion. So don't hesitate. Reach out, and you'd be surprised how welcoming female investors will be to an email from a female entrepreneur.
Take that step, right? Take that active approach.
That's right.
And take that step. Well, again, we thank you. We've gone longer than on any podcast before, but there's just so much that we wanted to get out, and we did. So thank you, Cat, for everything.
Yes.
And spending time with us here. If you're watching us on YouTube, please click that subscribe button. Just lets us know that we're adding value to you. If you're listening to us on Spotify, Audible, Apple, all of those methods, again, a subscription lets us know we're on the right path. Leave us a comment, and we'll see you guys next week. Thanks.